Welcome to the Weekly Lead. I'm Pastor Becky Tirabassi, and every week I want to encourage you to be a leader in your sphere of influence. Will you join me for this week's message? A number of years ago, a friend of mine, a college president, former president of Youth for Christ, gave me a book. And it was one of 4 books that he gave me. They were all kind of called classics of faith and devotion. They were over 100 years old, each of them. And the book that I most related to was by William Wilberforce, titled Real Christianity. When I think about the end of a year and the beginning of a new year and the few weeks in between, I think this is a fabulous time to set in motion a few new habits. And I'd like to encourage you as a pastor and friend, a speaker and author, to consider reading classic books on prayer and faith and Christianity that are over 100 years old. They actually don't sound much like the books written today, I think because there were so few distractions that there were not many things that you could focus on outside of reading the Bible and praying with others and developing this deep spiritual walk with God that impacted your character and your future, your choices. So I would like to encourage you to get a copy of Real Christianity. Just go online. It used to be out of print. You know, maybe people like me push the button so many times. They do have print on demand. There's a couple different publishers putting it out right now. Bethany is one of the publishers I have gotten 2 different copies from, because over time different editors write the preface or an introduction. And William Wilberforce was a politician, but he was greatly impacted by 2 people. One was a peer who was a strong Christian, and the other was a pastor who was a songwriter and former slave trader. So he had a real vibrant testimony, John Newton, and they together impacted Wilberforce, who was in Parliament during the time of William Penn, and it was a big time for Christians to live different than the world around them. And part of that was because slavery was rampant in England during the 18th century, and Wilberforce was one of the people, as a Christian, a believer in Parliament, who fought against until the abolishment of slavery was complete. Now, what's amazing about this is that, this was a little ahead of Lincoln and America's Civil War. He was part of an awakening. He was part of a revival in England, and his book is called Real Christianity. Well, having read it a few times, I developed a talk, a series on 8 traits of genuine faith for my community in Southern California, as well as my friends and other leaders in the city of Washington, or Washington, D.C., And these 8 traits of genuine faith, I'm going to do something that I think you'll enjoy. I hope it fires you up to want to get the book. But over 200 years ago, William Wilberforce wrote the book Real Christianity. And the full title, yes, there's a full title, because back in the day you just called it, well, let me read it to you. A practical view of the prevailing religious system of the professed Christians in the higher and middle classes in this country, contrasted with real Christianity. Yes, that was the title back in the day. Now they've shortened it to Real Christianity. After I read it a few times, I developed this lecture series called 8 Traits of Genuine Faith, which should be out in a book in 2024. The 8 Traits of Genuine Faith, grab a pen, are joy. Yeah, don't you like that? Character, reputation, maturity, humility, truth, endurance, oh, I know that one, and prayer. And I do love that one. So at this point, I want to take you to this place of 8 Traits of Genuine Faith through William Wilberforce's eyes and allow you to see what he saw about being a true or real Christian in a culture that was countercultural. Joy, and I put it this way, will triumph over any difficult situation. Wilberforce wrote, true Christians have an entirely different outlook on their faith. It is a joy for them to serve the Lord. They don't live their lives of obedience out of some heartless obligation to a punitive deity. They live joyfully in the blessing of the life God designed. They seek out like-minded friends with whom they can make this journey together. Right? Don't you love it? Second, character. Christians, real Christians, display character honorably. Wilberforce writes, if you feel that your life does not reflect the reality of Christ in the way it should, do not lose heart. God is in the transformation business. Yes, William Wilberforce said that in 1797. Third, William Wilberforce said, guard your reputation. Reputation is a sign of genuine faith. He wrote, reputation is a valuable quality that is meant to advance the causes of faith and virtue. The person of faith must be ready to replenish it in a moment if need be, but they also must jealously guard against throwing it away. Wow. Of the 8 traits, number 4 is spiritual maturity, or maturity in your relationships and your roles, where you responsibly and diligently act in such a way for the cause and sake of the gospel. He put it this way: strive to learn how to overcome the obstacles you tackle on your way to spiritual maturity. Learn from those who have successfully gone before you. Read good books by men and women who have lived the faith they profess. So you see, I am thinking like an old folk from 200 years ago. Read the books by men and women who have successfully gone before you. The 5th trait of genuine faith is humility. Wilberforce writes, from beginning to end, authentic faith is based on humility. It takes humility to acknowledge our true state before God and throw ourselves on His mercy. How we relate to God, to ourselves, and our fellow men and women is all a function of the humility we profess. Wow and amen, right? Number 6. Confidently base your decisions and actions on biblical truth. Yes, truth that is biblical. Wilberforce writes, there is one reason why the diligent study of the Bible is so important. It is here that God has given us the instruction we need to be able to tell right from wrong and truth from error. Without understanding its principles and precepts, we become victims of our own subjectivity. All right, 2 more traits of genuine faith, and I encourage you to get Wilberforce's book, Real Christianity, but even listening to the quotes just fires me up. The 7th trait of genuine faith is endurance. He writes, men and women will endure hardship and difficulty and give it all they have when the task is viewed as heroic. When the action required is not as exciting and demanding, they will tend to approach it with less than full effort and might fail to achieve the goal for that very reason. Oh, I take that one to heart. Endurance is really, really a big deal, and it takes us to the end of our lives when we don't give up on the God we know and love and the God who knows and loves us. And the final, and this is amazing to me, the final trait of genuine faith by William Wilberforce in my rendition called 8 Traits of Genuine Faith. Number 8 is prayer. It must be a non-negotiable priority in your daily life. Wilberforce writes, we live in difficult times. Remember now, this is me speaking. This is 200 years ago. I'll start over. We live in difficult times. Pray for this nation. We have all the marks of a declining civilization. Pray that God, who hears and answers the prayers of his people, might intervene on behalf of our country and bring a spiritual renewal that might save the nation. I believe that is my mandate. I hope it is as well for you. But I encourage you to get this book before the end of the year, begin reading it in the beginning of January of the new year, and see what God might do through you. Amen? Amen. I hope you've been encouraged by this message, and I hope you join me weekly for the Weekly Lead Podcast. Meanwhile, follow me daily on Instagram. The link is in the bio, with everything you need to become a weekly